Hi everybody, Moshe Gordon from healthhabits.com, and welcome to the second class of our free course on plant medicine. And I want to just start off with the story of Otzi, the Iceman. So Otzi was found in 1991 in an alpine glacier. He was frozen there for something like 5,000 years. And the interesting thing about Otzi, when he was found, amongst all the other things that he had with him, were two pieces of cork-like, leather-like material that at first was believed to be kindling to help him start fires. But later on, it was discovered that this wasn't cork, or it wasn't for kindling, but it was actually birch fungus. Now, they might not have understood what the meaning of this was until they had done an autopsy and they found that poor Otzi was suffering from the parasitic whipworm, which was found. They found eggs of the whipworm in his gut. Now, birch fungus is actually very interesting because it's toxic to parasites like the whipworm. And today, actually, they're discovering new forms of antibiotics that they're able to extract from the birch fungus. And we're just able to see from that mankind has been using botanics to treat digestional problems since before recorded history. Now, in this class, we're not going to touch on parasites, but I just wanted to bring that up as an interesting story. Okay, so let's start off with just going through a brief explanation of the anatomy and physiology of the digestive tract. The digestive tract is really just one long tube that starts from our mouth and ends at the anus. The main purpose of the digestive tract is it breaks down the food that we eat both mechanically and chemically so that our body is able to absorb the nutrients and use them to help us survive, so that we're able to survive and build new cells and give us the energy that we need to move along in our lives. Now, the entire digestive tract has pretty much three main layers, and the outermost layer is what's called the mucosal layer, which is made out of epithelial tissue. And this protects the organs of the digestive system. Under the mucosal layer, we have the submucosa, which is made pretty much of connective tissue, which supplies the blood to the mucosal layer. And under that, we have muscular layers, which also have another layer of connective tissue, which is for elasticity. Now, the digestive tract is made up of the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. Now, really just going through this very fast, just to give you a somewhat of an understanding so that you'll be able to better understand the four common ailments that we're going to be discussing in this class, and how we're going to treat them using botanicals. So now, the mouth begins the mechanical breakdown of the food with our chewing, and the saliva in our mouth actually already begins the chemical breakdown because it contains enzymes which start to already chemically break down our food. Then once we swallow the bola is the chunk of food that we've chewed up. Then once we swallow, that ends the voluntary phase that we have control over. And from then, once the food enters the esophagus, there's the involuntary act of peristalsis, which is the rhythmic contracting and relaxing of muscles, which moves the food along the digestive tract. in the esophagus, there's no absorption yet. Absorption starts in the stomach cavity, which is the next part of the digestive tract. Also, the stomach cavity, we have a very acidic environment, which helps to purify the food, kills bacteria, and also we begin absorption, and also the high acidity in the stomach helps to further break down chemically the food, and also in the stomach we have actions of the stomach muscles which continue to mechanically break down the food. After the stomach, the food moves on into the small intestine, which is actually the longest part of our digestive tract. And also, that's where most of the absorption of nutrients takes place. After that, when the food moves into the large intestine, one of the main acts of the large intestine is also to reabsorb water from the foods so that we don't have continuous runs and diarrhea, and also there's still some more absorption and chemical breakdown of the food in the large intestine. And then once the anal canal, which is the last part of the actual large intestine, the last part of the anal canal we actually becomes once again voluntary, so that we're able to control ourselves until we get to the bathroom. Okay, now it's been discovered, and it's a known fact that our mental state, our emotions, stress, and the way that we feel has a direct effect on the entire digestive tract, and we're going to touch on that also when we discuss the 4 ailments, which is going to be stomach ache and digestional discomfort, nausea, diarrhea, and constipation. So let's start off with stomach pains and digestional discomfort. We're going to discuss acute stomach pain and digestional discomfort. Obviously, if you have a chronic problem, you should for sure go see a doctor to see what is the main cause. Now, acute digestional discomfort could come from eating too much food, not chewing your food well enough, eating foods while you're on the run, or also stress, as well as foods that will cause inflammation, possibly foods that have high levels of bacteria in them, or that you have a sensitivity to, such as dairy products for somebody who's lactose intolerant, and other foods containing gluten if you have any level of celiac, which is an allergy to gluten-containing foods. Now, this is where it's okay. So now, if you eat too much, then you could be having stomach pains because of the elasticity of the stomach is being stretched out, and also any sort of inflammation could be causing pain it could be either in the small intestine, the stomach, the large intestine. So what can we do to help these out using botanicals? So one of the best herbs for stomach pains and discomfort is chamomile. Chamomile is a great all-around herb. I use it for a large number of things because it's an anti-inflammatory. It's also an analgesic herb, which helps to actually reduce pain in the body. It's a carminative herb, which helps to reduce gases in the digestive system. An antibacterial, so if you did eat something that had a high level of bacteria in it, it helps to kill the bacteria. Also, it's a bitter herb, bitter herbs help to, in general, strengthen and improve digestion, as well as an antispasmodic herb, which if we have inflammation and therefore the muscles in the stomach or in the intestines are tightening up, and that could be causing us pain, so it helps to lower the spasms of the stomach. But besides for that, chamomile is just, it also helps to actually heal wounds, meaning if you have ulcers in the stomach, chamomile could be a great herb to help to heal them up. And the next herb, which is great to help digestion, is mint. Now mint, because of either also spearmint and also peppermint, both of them contain menthol, which helps to give immediate relief to pain in the stomach just by cooling it down and working once again as an analgesic, as a pain relieving mechanism for the stomach and for the intestines. Both chamomile and mint could also be used topically, not connected to the digestive system. Also, mint is calming for the digestion, and also it's a carminative herb which helps to relieve gases. The combination of the two, of chamomile and mint, besides for being to be drank as a tea, besides for being tasty, is also a great remedy for all problems of the digestive tract. Now, I have used this formula, just chamomile and mint tea, for a client that I once had who was suffering from ulcerated colon. He just had a lot of open ulcers in his large intestine, and he was being treated by a doctor, and I'm sure he was, after I saw him, he was given medications for that, but he was pleasantly surprised by how much relief he was able to have just from drinking chamomile and mint tea. And the last herb for digestion discomfort is ginger. Ginger is an all-around great digestion herb, besides for having a lot of other uses, as well as antioxidant and great for relieving coughs and colds. But as far as digestion is concerned, it really improves digestion, and it works as an anti-inflammatory, also as a carminative herb, and as an antibacterial, which is what we're talking about. Could be causing stomach pains, acute stomach pains. And ginger is also the top herb for helping to ease nausea, which brings us to the next ailment that we're going to be talking about, is nausea. Now, nausea is usually talked about along with vomiting. And here I'm not going to touch on vomiting, because nausea is actually a problem in itself, such as with motion sickness that doesn't cause vomiting, or nausea that could be caused from ear infections, or morning sickness for pregnant women. So the mechanism which makes us feel nauseous is actually in the brainstem, and that's why one of the things that's why also when we just see things, they can make us nauseous, or smells can make us nauseous. And in the same way, certain smells could also help to treat nausea, such as ginger. If you use ginger essential oil or mint essential oil, just smelling them could also be useful to treat nausea. But ginger, to be taken either in a tea form or in even a capsule form, is great for motion sickness and morning sickness and nausea in general, as well as mint. Both mint and ginger are great herbs to help treat nausea. And I didn't mention it before, but you also have to, when you're using herbs, different herbs are prepared in different ways. To create a tea with any of the aerial parts of a plant, such as in the flowers and leaves, all you have to do is add boiling hot water and let the herbs steep for 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how strong you want to make the tea. But ginger, because it's a root, you actually have to cook it also for 5 to 15 minutes in order to really extract all the active ingredients in the root. Now, another herb which could be great for nausea is fennel seeds. Now, fennel seeds are also, all the herbs that we're going to be discussing in this class are stomatic herbs. They're herbs that are in general good for the digestive system. Fennel also is one of the great thematic herbs, and it's also useful to treat nausea, which because it is also rich in aromatic oils, and it's also an antispasmodic. It's a carminative herb. It's good for colic in really young children, and also for women that are breastfeeding. It helps to increase the breast milk. Also, fennel is great for diarrhea, and it could be used externally to treat conjunctivitis, to treat eye infections. And another herb which is useful for treating nausea is cinnamon. Now, cinnamon is also a very strong aromatic herb. It's also an astringent. It's warming. It's also useful for colds and mucus congestion. And also it's good for helping nausea, which is what we're discussing right now. Cinnamon, which is a heavy bark, also needs to be cooked for 5 to 15 minutes, just as ginger, just as roots. A word of caution. Oh, and I didn't mention with chamomile, you have to watch out. Some people are allergic to chamomile. It's very rare, but in my experience, I've come across only 2 people that had allergic reactions to chamomile, but you should just be aware of that. If you're using chamomile, or if you're recommending it to somebody else and it's their first time, they should try to just possibly rub a little bit of the tea on the inside of their elbow where the skin is very sensitive, just to see if the chamomile causes any sort of redness and irritation. And if it does, then you know that they're possibly and most probably allergic to it. And mint should not be used intensively with pregnant or nursing women. And as far as cinnamon, because cinnamon is a very warming herb, it shouldn't be used for people that have problems of possibly hypertension or have very hot personalities, because it could just create too much warmth in their body. And with cinnamon, I'm going to go straight into treating diarrhea. Because cinnamon is a strong astringent, I use it very often to treat problems of diarrhea, and it's extremely effective. A lot of times with diarrhea, the problem is there's an inflammation in the large intestine. As we said before, that one of the main functions of the large intestine is to reabsorb water from the foods. That's by the time our foods get to the large intestine, they're pretty much what's left over of them. And when we have inflammation, then the large intestine isn't able to reabsorb the water, and also the inflammation will cause spasms, which means that this rhythmic peristalsis is going a lot faster. So we want to use astringent herbs to sort of make the stool clump together better, so that it won't be the runs. And also we want to use antispasmodic herbs, which will help to calm the muscle spasms, and anti-inflammatory herbs and antibacterial herbs, which is pretty much that covers all of the herbs that we're discussing here, which are thematic herbs, as I mentioned. They all have these functions, but cinnamon is an especially useful one when treating diarrhea. And in addition, I want to speak a little bit about yarrow. Now, yarrow also is an astringent herb. Also, it's an antibacterial, it's an antispasmodic. It's also a bitter, and in addition, it could be great for diarrhea because it's also a very calming herb. Okay, yarrow is advised not to be used with pregnant women, so you should take note of that as well. And now we're going to touch upon our last ailment of the digestive tract, which is constipation. Now, one of the biggest cause of constipation is a lack of 2 things in our diet. It's a lack of not enough fiber and not enough water. Because if we don't have enough water, then the stools will be just too dry, and then they won't be able to pass as well. And also, if we don't have fiber, then what fiber does, it absorbs water to keep the stool slightly more moist, And it also helps to expand the stool and make it softer so that it's able to go through the large intestines a lot easier. And another thing that we have to that could be going on is, so a lot of times stress could cause acute problems of constipation. Like when people go away for a weekend and they're staying by friends and family, a lot of times they're less comfortable, and therefore they could have a acute constipation problem. And one of the great herbs for constipation is aloe vera. Aloe vera is a laxative, and it's got two parts which work in two different ways. You have the aloe vera gel, which is more of a gentle laxative and also helps to lubricate the stool to help it pass easier. And also it works as a laxative, actually, like to slightly stimulate the peristalsis. And for more severe cases of constipation, you could actually use the skin of the aloe vera plant, which is a much more powerful laxative, which actually stimulates very strongly the peristalsis, and if needed, that is a useful tool for treating constipation. In addition, aloe vera, it helps also to heal wounds. We know that everybody knows that it's used topically on the skin, but also if, for example, if you're trying to treat ulcers in any part of the digestive tract, then aloe vera gel could be very useful for that, as well as being an antibacterial and a very strong antioxidant. Aloe vera is one of those great herbs. You should not ingest a lot of aloe vera if you're pregnant, so watch out for that. And our last herb that I want to talk about, and especially while treating constipation, are flax seeds. Now, flax seeds, because they're very high in fiber, they work as a bulk laxative. They increase the mass, and they also, as we said, the fibers, they absorb water. They make the stool a lot softer, so it passes easier. And in addition, flax seeds, because of their high concentration of omega-6 fatty acids, the oils help to actually also lubricate the stool so that it's able to pass easier. And of course, we know omega-3 is a great anti-inflammatory, and it's great for the nervous system. And that makes flax seeds just a great addition to any diet. They're also good for people that are trying to lose weight, and for people that are just in general trying to increase their omega-3 intake. Now, for as far as calmative herbs for treating constipation, you could use two of the ones that we already spoke about, as in chamomile or yarrow, which are both also bitter herbs, and also bitter herbs could help with constipation by just improving the digestion, and also they could calm us down so that we're not as tight, so we're able to actually it makes our bodies easier to release the stool, which could be also causing constipation. And that covers our second class in our free course on botanical medicine or plant medicine or herbal remedies, however you'd like to say it. If you're already signed up to our mailing list, then you got the PDF and the MP3 download. And if not, you should sign up so that we're able to give you all of those materials. And we'll be in touch with you next week when we put out our next class. We're going to be discussing the respiratory tract. And you should look over again. I'm going to send you, there'll be at the bottom of this video and in the emails, a bunch of different classes and materials on the anatomy and physiology of the respiratory tract, so that you'll be able to understand it better and keep up with our next class. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, if I went through anything too fast, or you would like to hear a little bit more in-depth about any specific topic that we touched on here, then write something in the comments below, or on the website, on the page that you got the PDF and the MP3, and I'll be sure to take a look at that and respond to you. I mean, I really want this to be a class where I'm giving this over, but I also want to hear your feedback so that I'll be able to improve and give you a better class on the respiratory tract, and of course to answer any questions that you have. Once again, I'm Moshe Gordon from healthhabits.com, and we'll be in touch with you next week with our next class. Check out the website, like us on Facebook, follow the YouTube channel, and you'll get all the updates. Take it easy and have a great day.